up and welcome Todos to a new episode here for the Funget Pod Mindful Media and Communication. And I use Todos because, no, it's not going to be in Spanish, but we're going to look into a Spanish-speaking topic, kinda. Before we start, apologies for the mint in my mouth, but I tried to record an episode earlier without. I was just still coughing a lot after a week of fighting the flu. So I figured maybe that mint helps me to cough less during this episode. So just letting you know why there might be some mint action happening as you watch / listen. Okay, maybe I should do the episode in Spanish. Why did I start with Spanish? Well, I want to talk about, and I hope I don't butcher the name, I want to talk about Nayib Bukele, president of El Salvador, and just won the election, I think with 85% or so voting for him, which is pretty interesting, pretty crazy outcome. And just wanted to talk a little bit about like his communication style, because I mean that's what we do here on the podcast, talk about communication and so on. And actually, while we speak, I'm just gonna open his socials on X and Instagram and everything, because to be quite fair, the first time I came across him was on Instagram, I think, and I thought he's an influencer the first time. I did not know he was the Presidente of El Salvador, and apologies, El Presidente. But obviously I learned ever since, and so he's got 6.5 million followers on Instagram. He's got 5.9 million followers on X. Lots of Bitcoin people follow him on X. No surprise, more on this in a second. And yeah, just a very, very active social media profile. And that's already one thing I wanna highlight, because unlike other presidential candidates, president, leaders of nations, whatever, prime ministers, you name it, chancellors like we have in Germany, he's very, very active, and it's not all. It's thought through, but it's not. It doesn't feel like completely scripted. For example, in Germany, where I'm from, when our chancellor grabs the phone and is very personable, it's the worst thing ever, and you wish he would never do it. Please, Chancellor Scholz, don't do it. You're just not that person to do it. It's like, hello, I am here to tell you my favorite Christmas dish. No. Okay, so but still coughing. Sorry, but Bukele is like, he grew up with this stuff, right? He's young. He grew up with all things, and he's a digital native. So it just feels like very fluent, very native. It feels very organic when he does it. Okay, so that's one thing. He's using social media in a very organic way. Then, of course, he's famous for adopting Bitcoin as legal tender in El Salvador. And that, of course, also reshaped how El Salvadorians think of Bitcoin, I would assume. That reshaped how people think of him, like as forward-thinking, progressive. But it also shapes of how people think about him and El Salvador. For example, think of him what you will, right? But I mean, CC, for example, is following El Presidente, and lots of like Bitcoin / financial people follow El Presidente. Those people probably don't follow our chancellor. Even though the German economy, for example, right now is probably, 700 times bigger than the economy in El Salvador. And that's not flex, it's just like saying, in theory, all those financial people and influencers, whatnot, should follow probably our chancellor for advice. But because he doesn't give any and he doesn't do anything, But Bukele does, they follow him, and that's a good thing, right? So if you communicate well, people are drawn to you. That's a good thing. So respect to El Presidente for really being a good communicator. I'm not here to talk necessarily just all about politics, because of course you can always have different opinions on things. We're looking at like the communication, okay? And looking at the communication, I think Bukele is like a master at utilizing agenda setting theory, okay? He's using Twitter, Instagram, whatever, traditional media too, of course, to spotlight like his administration's focus on mostly public safety. That's like his go-to point, right? So he has got like regular updates on gang crackdowns, and shows like how they arrest the gang members and how they throw them like this new super prison that they've built in El Salvador, and like how they treat and how the gang members, and they're really cracking down on it. So he makes sure that those topics are the topics that are being talked about. Again, he doesn't tell you what exactly to think about, but he does make sure that you think about it. Okay? So that's agenda setting. So if I keep mentioning all those things, not telling you what to say, what to think, but I'm making sure that you actually are aware that this is happening and you think about the topic I want you to think about. Now, of course, because he's so famous on social media, he kind of also frames the narratives, okay, like the framing theory, okay? So he's framing his administration, his governance as like this transformative era. Like we turn it around from the most criminal country in the world to the country now that's the safest in all of America or something like this, right? And now having Bitcoin as legal tender, for example. So we are transforming El Salvador, and that's how he distinguishes his approach from past administrations. So strategic framing rallies like support and like crafts perception of progress and of efficiency, actually. So that's what they focus on when they frame their messages, and he does that again very, very, very well when it comes to his social media posts. You could also think that he actually kind of acts like a key opinion leader, like KOL. It's like a marketing term right now, right? Because apologies, the two-step flow theory is also at play here. Yeah, he leverages it by engaging with like influencers and the public, of course, and sometimes even like he feels like he's the influencer, right? So you don't get the message raw or from the source, but we get it through him, and then we just follow what he says, right? So that's like the two-step, because you don't get it from step number one would be like the source, and then there's someone in between making sense of it for us, and it's right now mostly him or the influencers that he's working with, right? And they amplify the message through that network of influencers, opinion leaders, and so on. And this strategy, of course, broadens the reach and deepens the impact, obviously, because if you follow him, but even if you don't follow him, you follow those influencers, and you hear from them. So smart move, like running his presidency basically like a marketing campaign. There's also lots of, I want to say, symbolic interactionism at place, combined with like personal branding. Okay, like he usually is wearing like this casual attire, and it's a very direct communication style, like very young, very direct, very informal. That of course resonates with like this with this modern audience. It breaks this traditional political molds. Like if you look at like our chancellor in Germany, Chancellor Scholz, is like super traditional, like very much removed from the average public. You're like, you would never hang out with that guy. But with Bukele, you're like, yeah, let's go grab a cerveza, right? So he has this very direct approach that makes him like feel more real, I want to say. And this is this approach that's very much rooted in like symbolic interactionism. It shapes the public perception of his leadership, of his persona, and is very relatable. And right now, seen as very innovative. Okay, so that's a very good way to connect with the broad audience. And if you look at like the last theory, I just want to throw out there, because if you want to hear more, come join my class. Use and gratification. It's the go-to theory, but it applies again. Why? Because his strategy caters perfectly to those diverse audience needs of his audience. They're from informative updates to engaging content. Like there's a perfect illustration of use and gratification theory. Whatever the audience wants, he gives it to them to satisfy them, to keep following him, and to keep probably also voting for him. Okay. So his ability to entertain while informing strengthens the follower engagement, which is pretty cool. To wrap things up, right? Back to the Bitcoin part, because that's how I actually got to know about him. Like accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. Was it smart? Was it not smart? Let's see. Now Bitcoin to the moon. But it shows his willingness to embrace technology and, innovate El Salvador's economy. And let's be honest, we probably didn't know much about El Salvador's economy. Now you hear El Salvador, you're like, oh yeah, Bitcoin. So at least tied something together there. So this move, of course, attracted global attention and sparked lots of debates on digital currencies and so on. So why not? And he's the first one doing so. So his name and his country's name will forever be linked with that. So smart move, right? So future-proof, and probably also attracted lots of investors, potential investors, and so on. So from a communication point of view, again, well done. Like, we're the forward-thinking ones. We're trying new things. If you want to try new things, come to El Salvador. So overall, again, I'm not here to discuss his actual politics because I wouldn't know enough about it. But talk about how he communicates his politics, that's what we can do. And from that point of view, I think it's pretty interesting and pretty well thought out, thought through, and well crafted. The one thing that I found, me as a German, that I found a little bit interesting to watch was like when after they won the election and he's giving his victory speech in front of 80,000 people over there. I don't know how many people were there, right, cheering for him. And he's just saying something. And people go just like, yeah, we've seen that before. I'm not saying he said anything racist, by the way. Please don't think that I say that. It's just every time I see this, like a political leader like going like this, and thousands of people like just saying, yeah, let's go. It just gives me like PTSD, even though I wasn't there back in the day, but it gives me some kind of PTSD, and we don't really see this like with our leaders in the Western world, right? The last time probably, when Barack Obama like stole the Si Se Puede for his campaign, and after he won, and it's like, Si Se Puede, yes, we can. But you don't see like that much of energy at like political rallies when the leader speaks after an election result. So interesting times. Let me know, like, what do you think? If you are from El Salvador, let me know, like, what's happening. How's the overall feeling there? Like, when I look at the YouTube comments and the video comments, usually comments from El Salvador are very positive. Like, yeah, it's like the policies seem to be tough, but it's working and we're feeling safer and so on. So I'm really curious, but pardon me. Also from a communications point of view, like, do you like if your president is like this outgoing, like, hey, I'm on social media and all the things that I do? Are you saying like, no, hey, actually, less social media, more actual work? Maybe that would be a better idea. So let me know your thoughts at funkitpod on social media, funkitpod@gmail.com. As always, stay safe, take care, like, share, subscribe, rate this thing to reach a wider audience, maybe even people in El Salvador. Until then, I'm going to go back to bed and keep coughing. We talk soon.